Kelly and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we are going to go through all the books I read in the month of May. I am so excited to talk about the books I read this month. I thoroughly enjoyed most of the books I read, and I read a lot this month, which I want to just like pat myself on the back for doing because it's been a while since I've read this many books. But I'm gonna say I've read 5, but by the time this video comes out it will be 6 because I am in the middle of a book that I will probably finish by the end of the night, and we'll get into that later on. Now, looking at those 6 books, I had a mix of genres, okay? I had thriller, I had romantasy, I had short story novellas, I had horror, I had romance. I had a mix of things, and that was really fun. Some ratings I had the highest rating was a 4.25, the lowest was a 3.5. So pretty average reading month, no 5 stars, and had some good reads, and I want to talk about them. So let's get into the 6 books I read in the month of May. Starting off, the first book I finished this month was Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. This was my thriller book that I started the month off with, and I'm kind of glad I did because I wanted something kind of bone-chilling, kind of creepy, like suspenseful, something like that, and this did the job. And I think this got me into more genres later into the month, which we'll get into. But this is about a couple different people. You kind of get a mixture of perspectives in this book. You have past and present and different people's point of views. And it's mostly about a missing person. And you're trying to figure out what happened to this person. And someone returns 11 years later after they've been missing, and you're kind of learning what actually happened when that girl went missing 11 years ago. So there's a lot of twists and a lot of turns, kind of Frida McFadden twists like that, plot twists and things like that. So I enjoyed that, and I liked the twist. It wasn't like cheesy, I don't think, and it kept me on my toes for sure. So I rated this a 4-star. I thought it was a pretty good thriller novel, and like I said, it kept me on my toes. It kept me wanting to read more because I was like, wait a minute, what? How did we get here? Or how did this happen? So it was pretty good. It kept me on my toes, kept me entertained, wanting to know more or read more. And yeah, I don't know if I'd read anything more by this author, but I did enjoy this book, so I did rate it a 4-star. Book number 2 for the month was Face Off by Chelsea Courteau. This is book 1 in the DC Stars series, and I read this on the Kindle app because it was available for Prime reading. And this is the hockey romance book, okay? It's kind of popular right now, I think because of Heated Rivalry. I can never say that, but I feel like hockey romances are just kind of like becoming a little more popular and trendy because of that show and book. But this one is about Emmy Hartwell and Maverick Miller, who Emmy gets placed to play on the Stars, or the DC Stars, while Maverick Miller is the captain, and they kind of do a friends with benefits type thing because they feel like it helps them become better players, and then soon, you know, they start realizing that maybe this friends with benefits thing should be more serious and we're actually falling for each other. So I absolutely loved their banter together. They were fun characters just to get to know, and you also get to know a lot of the teammates because I'm pretty sure the rest of the books in the series are going to be about the teammates, of course. But I loved getting to know the characters and their personalities and the banter between Emmy and Mav. It just felt very like playful, but also like kind of filled with some tension between them. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did rate this surprisingly a 4.25, but it is a pretty good read. There were some parts I would say that felt maybe a little boring to some people, but to me, I had a fun time. It's definitely one of those like giggling, kicking your feet type romance books. So if you like something like that that's just light and a little spicy, you'll definitely love this. So recommend, especially with this hockey romance hype. Definitely recommend. Am I gonna read more from her? Maybe not from the series. I love a good hockey romance. I've been reading the Vancouver Storm with Stephanie Archer, and now here's another series maybe I might have to get into. So that is Face Off by Chelsea Cardero, book number 2, rated a 4.25. This was actually my highest rated book of the month. Now the next book. This book was actually not on my TBR. I think I went to the library and it was before my hair appointment. It was like I was around this town going to the library for some reason, and I was looking at the new, not releases, but new arrivals at the library. They have like a little section of where they have their new books that just got to the library put. And I saw this book and I was really interested because of the cover. And this is Hard Luck Jenny by David Sodergren. This is a horror novella. And I guess he is kind of like a somewhat popular horror author because someone else I just watched, maybe on TikTok, wrote a book by him. And I was like, oh, he must be somewhat known in the horror community, because I picked this up book strictly because of the cover. I thought the cover was eye-catching and pretty cool, and I was like, this book isn't that long. It's a novella. It's like 100-something pages. I could read this real quick, and I've been kind of wanting to get into horror, so I picked it up. I checked it out from the library, and it took me maybe like a day to read it. Not even. And what it's about this guy who like once a month or once in a couple months goes and visits his mom and takes care of his mom in Scotland. He lives in Scotland, she lives on the other side of Scotland. He has to drive his car there. And it starts off with him coming back from his mom's, but the main road that he usually takes home is closed. There's construction or something, so he has to take a detour and he has to pee. And so he stops at like a local pub and he notices some weird stuff going on at this pub, and all he needs to do is use the bathroom, but the people there won't let him leave. And so that's kind of how the story starts, is he's stuck here. And he soon meets this girl named Jenny, who she is a little strange. So I'm not gonna get too much into it because again, it's a novella. I don't want to spoil the whole story, but it definitely was like interesting. Definitely kept me on my toes. I don't necessarily think it was horror-esque. I think it was more creepy than like gory, scary, or kind of just like an uneasy feeling I had when reading. But I also was like wanting to read more. So if you want like a short horror story, I'd recommend this book. I liked it a lot. Kind of got me into like reading some horror short stories because I don't know, this one was weird, but it kept me interested. So I rated this a 3.5 because there were some parts that were very like comedic. Like you could tell that some points he didn't want it to be too scary. He like added comedic relief to it. But then there were some weird parts like towards the end of the story where I'm like, ooh, that's weird. Okay, close the book, I'm done. So I enjoyed it. It was good. Kind of got me into like wanting to look into short stories or horror short stories. So I'm thankful for that. So like again, this is Hard Luck Jenny by David Sodergren. And I rated it a 3.5. Book number 4 is also a ebook or a Kindle reading book type thing, whatever, on my e-reader, and that was Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Moss. Now this is like a dark romantasy, I think is what it says on the title or cover page or something like that. So you're following the point of view of this girl and her trials and her becoming a Spartan or something like that. I was kind of a little lost, to be honest. It kind of got a little murky throughout the story at some points because I'm like, what is going on? And somehow, some way, there is romance in this story, which kind of felt just pushed, or just like full-fledged towards the end of the book. It's whatever. It's fine. I don't know. I felt like it should have been more throughout the whole story, but it felt very just like little bits and pieces here, and then all of a sudden here have the whole thing at the end. I rated this a 3.75 just because the writing seemed a little like, I know this is supposed to be like a dystopian novel, like we're in the future where like Greek mythology or Greek gods rule the world and like there's titans roaming the earth. But I feel like the writing style, like the writing could have been a little bit different, or the story could have been told different. And our main character, she kind of annoyed me. She said one quote, and I'm just gonna say this. She said, "Free the nips and the lips," like 3 times. 3 times. Once was enough. I don't need you saying it 3 times. It's just, there were some parts where I was like, what? This seems too modernized if you're trying to build this story. And she did not act like she was 19. She acted like she was 15. And there was just things about our main character I didn't really enjoy. She kept passing out. That was another thing. After she did a test, passed out. After she ate food, passed out. After someone talked to her, passed out. I'm like, girl, you're asleep half of this book, not even, more than half. So it kept me on my toes. I did push through and read and finish it. Am I gonna read the next book? Probably not. The last few chapters of the book picked up with the plot, and you find out more about Alexis, and that I think kept me entertained, but I don't think I'm gonna continue this series. So a 3.75 is probably really nice of a rating for this book, but I'm not going to continue the series. I thought it was going to be something else, and it definitely wasn't. But that is a-okay. This was Blood of Hercules by Jasmine Moss. And the last book that I currently, like at this current time, that I finished is Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. Now, after I finished our horror novella, Hard Luck Jenny, I went back to the library and I was like, I want more short stories. Like, I just want something short and sweet. I like it. It keeps me on my toes. It's quick. And I've heard T. Kingfisher because of other stories she's written, which I believe is Nettle and Bone and What Moves the Dead, I've heard. And they didn't have those at my library, but they did have this, and this piqued my interest. This is about a fairy whose name is Toadling. This is Toadling, but Toadling can kind of shift into a fairy, but also a toad. And Toadling is protecting this tower for a unknown reason, but then a knight comes and says, I need to go to that tower, I have to go, and Toadling's like, no you cannot. This is sort of like a Sleeping Beauty retelling, I've saw some people say. Slightly, not like fully, but slightly. I will agree with that. I really liked this. I liked the story of it. Definitely like fantasy vibes for this. It's kind of fun with the little twist at the end of what happens. Again, don't want to spoil, but it's a quick story. Only like 100-ish pages. Yeah, 100-ish pages. It's just fun to kind of read and kind of get in that like fairy tale mindset of this book, because that's kind of what it is. It's like a little fairy tale, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. So I rated it a 3.5. It wasn't too crazy, like nothing high stakes or life-changing. It was just like a fun little story to read. I think the main reason I wanted to read this was just because of our little toad friend. I just thought it was adorable. So recommend if you want like a short fairy tale vibe story, but to be honest, plot overall, pretty bland. Not much going on. Definitely going off vibes. So this was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. I do want to read more by T. Kingfisher, and I rated this a 3.5. Now the 6th book that, if we're adding it to this wrap up, that I have not yet finished, but as soon as I'm done recording this, or as soon as I'm done here, I will be finishing it, and that is Tangled Up in You by Christina Lauren. This is book 4 in a meant to be novel, but they are all standalones. I believe they're all like romance Disney princess retellings. This one is obviously Rapunzel based off Tangled, and I am loving reading this book, okay? Not because Tangled is my favorite movie of all time, or Disney princess movie of all time, but it has so many little Easter eggs like in the story, and it feels like you're watching the movie but like in a modern twist, and I just absolutely love it. So it's about Wren, who has lived on a farm her whole life, or a homestead. She has never touched a phone, she's never watched TV, she has never done anything with social media, but she really wants to go to college. So her parents finally let her go to college, and they are very, very strict. They tell her that she can't leave campus, she has to do this, she has to go back home on every Friday to come back and work at the homestead. And so she goes to college and she meets this guy named Fitz, and he is the kind of like the playboy of the college campus, as everyone calls him. And Wren, as her being the kindest soul, or just like a ray of sunshine, wants to talk to him and get to know him and all of this. And soon we have a road trip going on, and they're going across the country together for reasons. And you definitely get to see their relationship grow between each other. Yes, as reading it as a rom-com or type book, it's a little crazy to think of like a girl who's never been anywhere, who's like kind of naive in a sense, going to across the country with a guy from college. Seems a little outlandish, but when you think of the movie Tangled, you're like, oh, this is just like the story. It's fine. So I definitely love it. I'm eating it up. And like I said, I love the little Easter eggs of things like from the movie that kind of go into the plot of this book in different ways, or kind of in a modern twist. So I'm currently on page 28, page 222. I have like about 100 pages, not even, maybe like 80 pages left. So hopefully when I'm editing, I'll put my rating up here, but I think it's probably gonna be like a 4-star unless something crazy happens and my rating goes up a lot more, or if something crazy happens and I did not like it, then it might go down. So we're gonna predict it's a 4-star, but I'll put my rating somewhere on the screen here because I am finishing this tonight, so I will let you know. I always go through the books that I did not read on my TBR. Now, I did kind of go off TBR this month because I went to the library and kind of found some books that I didn't know existed until I went to the library. So I 100% am so happy I did, because I don't have these books and I would have never known they existed if I did not go to the library. So this is your like PSA to go support your local library. But the 2 books I did not get to this month were The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. I don't know if I'm really ever gonna read this. I might actually just donate it, but I think I'm gonna hold on to it maybe a little bit longer, and then maybe hopefully I read it, but if not, by the end of the year might have to get rid of it. I don't know. And the other book I did not get to was a Kindle book or a Prime reading book, and that was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I just did not want to get into a high fantasy trilogy. I just didn't want to step into that this month, and I don't know if I will. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I really want to read it. I know it's like a highly rated book or a highly talked about book, so I gotta either find the right time to read it or just not. I don't know. Who knows? So a lot of the books were electronic or they were library books and I already returned them, so the stack is small for the books that I've read this month, but that is a-okay. I had some really good reads and I enjoyed the books I read this month, and I liked just going to the library and just finding a book instead of just like going off of popular books that I see on social media such as TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. Just going to the library and just looking at books and seeing what catches my attention was kind of fun. So I'm definitely going to do that more this month and find maybe my new favorite book. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up and also make sure you subscribe. I post videos once a week, whether it's bookish content like this, lifestyle, vlogs, kind of whatever I'm in the mood for. So if you like what you're seeing, you should go ahead and subscribe. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. Bye!